Before we start this podcast, I want to definitely remind you of a sponsor for Fresh of the Word, 20 by 20 Apparel. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel brings original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the bloopers, bleeps, and body slams along with the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. In the world of wrestling where there's hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all the tees in-house. So if you'd like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, or even Zubaz, then drop them a line at 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20x, the number 20apparel.com. And also check out their enamel pin line. It's super cool.
Fresh is the word.
I'm Jim Duggan, got long wood for plenty hoes. I keep it fresher than fresh, but you already know. You suckers bummy, I'm money, I got a ton of flows. My weed loud like a motherfucking thunder roll. Your shit quiet like you ballin' on a budget though. We see your kicks and we laugh and yellin' what are those. You see me shining like a suit on puffy. You know my grindin' shit is too strong, buddy. That's why the dude call money. I be stuntin' like it's nothing at all. Cause it's nothing to me, it's probably something to y'all. Trying to smoke like me, then come and fuck with your dog. Got a closet full of kicks, you can't cop it tomorrow. And I'm fresher than the freshest, you can tell it's in my essence. Bitch, you see the way I'm rapping, yes I do this shit to death. I tell I'm running out of breath, I tell somebody cut a check. But either way you know it's fresh, and either way you know it's fresh. Fresh, we fresh. Fresh, 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 goddammit, we fresh. Fresh, fresh, goddammit, we so damn fresh.
Welcome to the Fresh of the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And like always, we have the freshest guests on this podcast. And I hope you're staying safe during our global pandemic. Please stay in your houses. Be safe so we can get this over with. But make sure you wash your hands, wear your masks, and do everything that you need to stay safe and not, spread this virus. Well, we will get through it. But on this episode, we go back to my second day at this year's C2E2 convention in Chicago, and you get to hear my talks with first, best-selling author S.L. Huang, who is about to release her new book, Critical Point. Then after that, I talked with the team behind DC Black Label's Joker Harley Criminal Sanity, writer Cami Garcia, and artist Jason Badower. To start things off, S.L. Huang has a math degree from MIT and is a weapons expert and professional stuntwoman who has worked in Hollywood on Battlestar Galactica and a number of other productions. Huang's latest book is due out on April 28th, Critical Point, and it is the third in her Cas Russell series following Zero Sum Game and Null Set. During our chat, we talked about this series based on its character that is a math genius mercenary, along with her background in math and as a stuntwoman, along with representation in literature, and the many different ways you can be a nerd. So, let's first get into this interview with S.L. Huang.
Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. We get it?
Okay.
That's my go-to test 1, 2, 3. So.
Yeah, I know you're a bit of a nerd, I guess.
Yeah, you can say it. You can say it. We're here at C2E2. I feel like nerd is the default.
I was trying to think about what. I'm like, do I call you a math nerd? Do I call you
which type of nerd?
Yeah, which type? Yes. I was trying to think about what sort of nerd.
I am all the nerds. I'm a grammar nerd, language nerd, math nerd, science nerd, sci-fi nerd. Like hit all the points.
Cool. Welcome to the Fresh of the Word podcast. I'm here again, C2E2. Got another fresh guest. This is K Fresh. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm S.L. Huang, and I am the author of the Cas Russell series from Tor, starting with the book Zero Sum Game.
So, you have a new book coming out.
Yes.
Talk about it.
All right. So the book that's coming out in April is called Critical Point. It is the third in my superpowered math thriller series. The books are Zero Sum Game, Null Set, and then Critical Point coming in April. They're fast-paced thrillers about an anti-heroine whose superpower is being able to do math really, really fast, and she uses it to murder slightly too many people, as you do with math.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I do with math.
Yeah, totally,
Like,
right? Like
yeah.
my degree is in math, and that's that. We had all the super assassin classes there. That's, that's how it works.
It's a part of it's an elective of the
Totally.
math degree. It's like assassins,
Yeah,
and
swords,
then
and,
swords,
knife
sword
throwing,
class,
yeah,
like bomb.
Yeah. See, kids, this is why you should study math. It's
So
very
that's good.
exciting.
Right? Yeah. Like, I killed some of my classmates in math. I excelled in math in high school, and I killed some of my classmates.
Well done, well done.
Well done. Yes. So.
You would get along with my main character then.
All right. So, where did the whole idea of the series come about? I know a lot of your background went into it, but where were you like, yo, this is what I want to do with it?
Well, ever since I was little, I've always been a huge math and science nerd. And ever since I was little, I've been, into science fiction and fantasy and superhero stories. And I'd always wanted to write something about superheroes, but that were like math or different types of science or like other types of like sort of academic disciplines, but like kind of taken to the extreme into like superpower territory.
Yeah.
So I'd sort of been battering around this idea for a while, and then I hit on the idea of doing it as this sort of, it's a little bit noir, snarky, like first-person thriller with this main character who's like, kind of is not the best at human skills, at interacting with people, and it, just basically solves problems by punching them in the face, or tries to, and like has this, extreme math ability, and I was like, oh my gosh, this will work. This is the idea that I've been wanting to do. So yeah, and you mentioned my background. I'm a stunt woman in armor as well, so that certainly played in. I couldn't have written this book without like living in LA and working in movies and doing all of that like movie action.
How did you get into that? Because you're a weapons expert, you're a stunt woman, and you're also just like a math geek, like.
I have a very eclectic personality.
That's very eclectic, I'm like, yo, like, how did you get into all of that? Where was the time when you're like, yo, I want to be a stunt woman?
Well, I'd always been a performer. Like, I actually majored in math and minored in theater arts. So I'd always been an actress, and I'd always, I'd always done a lot of martial arts and sword fighting. And then I actually learned to shoot at MIT. There are 2 gun ranges in the Boston area, and one is in the basement of the MIT Athletic Center. And my coach at the time was incredible, just like, very, very safe, very focused, and just an incredible coach. And he last I heard, is coaching the U.S. Paralympic shooting team. So that gives you an idea of like what a great pistol coach he was. And then at the end of college, I was kind of like, I love math, but if I go to graduate school, I was kind of feeling burnt out, and I was like, I might end up hating math, and I don't want to hate math. I love math, right? So I was like, I have this other love, performing, and I decided to go out to Hollywood for a little while and, give that a go, and pretty immediately started doing just stunts and the weapons work, which I love very much.
That's crazy. Like, yeah, no, like if you just go for math, don't like the opportunities, that avenue that you might go down might be a little might burn you out,
Well,
maybe, from what you kind of think about it, you might get a little frustrated. And you sound like somebody that wants more out of life, wants a little bit more excitement in life.
A little bit that, and also like this type of math I was studying was, quite theoretical, and there isn't much, like I really enjoyed it, but there most of the jobs that you would do with that would be, well, you could become a professor, right, which is what most theoretical people who study theoretical math do, and I kind of didn't want to do that. And then, there are other jobs, but they're mostly things like, they're not, they use math, and you can get a job like at a hedge fund or finance or whatever, but they're not like doing the fun kind of math. They're just people who are like, okay, math, you can, help us make money in the stock market or whatever. And that was sort of on the empty side for me. I didn't want to go for that kind of job. I mean, I just like you said, I wanted a little bit more excitement and meaning in my life.
Yo, what's the fun kind of math, and like what does that entail? What are some like industries, some jobs, some things that would be like the fun kind of math?
so what I love about math personally is I love seeing the way it connects to itself. Like it's like seeing the bones of the universe to me, which I know sounds a little corny, but just when I'm looking at like a really cool, elegant math proof that just like connects all these different areas of of other types of math together, and it's beautiful. It's like looking at a piece of art to me. And the fact that we can like do that, and we can discover these things and find more and make more of this up. Math is actually a very creative field. I think that's really cool. And I also love connecting to the real world. Like so much of the world is math. Everything we see around us is just filled with like statistics and probabilities. And I love that. I think it's really cool.
So how do you go from that to, writing, being an author?
Well, I'd always been a writer since I was very, very small. I wrote my first novel when I was 19. It will never see the light of day.
You go back and look, I'm like, yo.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, I could revise this, but it would take way longer than just writing something new.
I'll just write something new.
Yeah, pretty much.
I
mean, it's good for a 19-year-old, but like not something I want shown to the world. But anyway, so I'd always been writing, but it was always sort of like the thing I did for fun. And even in college, like there were a lot of like really cool creative writing classes that I could have taken. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Writing's going to be the one thing that like I have no deadlines and no stress. I'm just going to do it for fun. And that didn't end up working out so well for me. But then, I when I got the idea for this book and I, ended up writing it, and I finished it on a movie set, actually. I was like on set and I had my sides, which are like the lines for the day. And I, there's like these half-page pieces of paper with the script on it.
Right.
And I would turn them over and I had a pencil and I was like writing longhand. And then I was like, oh, I think I just finished my book. So I was looking at this book and I'm like, I think I'm proud enough of this that I want other people to see it, So I sort of fell backwards into publishing, I guess, because, I didn't expect it to get like the publisher that I did, and the support that I've gotten and the response that it's gotten has just been incredible. And now I'm a full-time writer, and it's
What were
amazing.
some of the things that like, really stuck out, like in regards to the feedback that you got, like when you from that first book, when it just, when the publisher saw it, when the fans saw it, what really sticks out?
I think a lot of people are really fascinated with it because it's not like something they've seen before, which can be both good and bad, because I try to tell people about it, and it's hard to like compare to things that people know about. But what people really like, I think, is they like hearing about my background, and that I'm somebody who was doing stunts for movies and doing weapons stuff like full time professionally, and I'm a woman, and I'm a math major, and like tying all this together into this sort of like mix that is very, very much a book I would have written. I've gotten really great responses to that.
When I was looking on your website, in the About Me section, you have all these like weird, interesting facts. And the last one on there was like the queer Illuminati. Like
that's there was a I don't know if that's still active. There was somebody else in sci-fi who was like listing there are many queer Asian sci-fi writers, of which I am one, and for a while one of us was like sort of collecting where we would all like appear in table of contents together and like be like, oh, we've got all these like really cool queer Asian science fiction, fantasy, and horror writers. So yeah, it was I mean, I love the science fiction and fantasy communities, and I love that we're able to have those like sub-communities where we support each other. So.
How much of like yourself kind of goes into these books, like beyond like just the math stuff, like when you're developing these characters, is there are you drawing anything from yourself or from your family or anything? What goes into that?
I would say none of these characters are explicitly based on anyone, but they're all drawn from pieces of me and from pieces of my life. I would say definitely, for sure. I have I try to have my characters be all like very distinct people and very distinct motivations and sensitive humor and the way they interact with each other and flaws. But a lot of that is certainly drawn from life, and a lot of the little anecdotes that like I have had in my own life regarding, say, mathematics or computers or something. I'll throw in the books. I actually like sometimes I've had a few of my friends whose like their research I like put in the books as a little bit of a tribute. So like my main character's doing some math and I mention what she's doing and it's like some obscure, area of mathematics or process or something. But it's like something that one of my friends has been researching and they're like, oh my gosh, you put it in the book. So that's really fun.
What do you hope, people get out of, reading this series?
A good time. That's the number one. I want to be entertaining. I want people to read them and be like, this was fun. This was a good ride. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the dialogue and the fast-paced action of it. That's really my number one motivation.
As someone who comes from has just this diverse sort of take on everything, being Asian American, being a woman, like, are there any stories that you want told more, whether it is in a serious way or in a fun way? Is there any types of stories that you want to be told or told in a certain way that more often? And is there things that you would, love to just do yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my answer to that would be all of them. We need all of these stories. I think one of the problems when we're talking about representation of, different genders or different, ethnicities or demographics is having that like narrowness where there's only one or only a few.
There's like that sort of like uniform for each sort of thing. Like queer people are this.
Yeah, exactly, and I hate that.
Or Muslim people are that, or Asian Americans are that.
And we need to show that like these demographics, we aren't monoliths. We have all of this variety within us, and we're all different people with all different motivations. And I think, by writing, fast-paced thrillers, they're not like super messagey, super political books, but by having a diverse cast in these like super like action adventure books, like that to me is significant. That's a profound thing to do, because I'm saying that these escapist, popcorn fiction, where we're having these adventures, these are our stories too. But we need all of them. We need all
normalize them into like the regular like just stupid shit that's out there, that like everybody can have stupid shit.
Exactly. We need all of the we need the light stuff, we need the deep stuff, we need everything in between. And I love, my books are they're very much on the entertainment side. I do try to put some like deepness and thinkiness in them too. Yeah. Of course, yeah. But I just think we need the whole gamut of it. And like this year is 2020. Fall, in the fall, I have another book coming out from Tor. That's it's a mix. It's a fantasy that's a mix of Chinese and European folklore. Okay. And it's the main characters are Red Riding Hood and Ho Yi the Archer, who's from Chinese mythology, and they're both queer middle-aged women. Basically. Having these adventures and then also like having the angst about their families and whatever, and like so that's a much more like going deeply into like my culture and stuff like that, and like or cultural elements that are important to me. And I want those types of stories, and then I also want those types of stories where that isn't part of it, and we still have a diverse cast. We just need everything.
Right. Before we get out of here, I just gotta say I love your dress. It's
Thank you so
cute.
Much. Thank you.
There's the solar system on it, and it's just super cute.
I appreciate that. I got it at this vintage shop in LA, unfortunately, or I would tell your listeners where to. I don't think it's orderable online.
Right, like that's the best stuff. You just find it like you can't find it ever again, and just like it's super cute. And I was like, the whole time I'm just like, yo, this dress is super cute.
Best part, it's got pockets.
All
femme people know that's a rare thing.
Yes. Okay. Recently, I came out as being queer and also, non-binary.
Awesome.
I still prefer women dating-wise and everything. But I've been like,
there's been like pants that I like that women have, that I want to buy because they don't have them in men. So I bought like this one. They're like these, yellow plaid. They look dope. And when I got them, I'm like, they fit perfectly. But they had the smallest pockets.
Right.
What
Oh
can
my
you put in
gosh.
these pockets? Lip gloss? I'm like, and I know women just be like, yo, can we just put pockets in everything? Deep pockets in everything?
Agreed. You
Like,
should be able to.
Yeah, so when women get something like that has pockets in there, they're like, they're super excited. And now I understand.
I'm a genderqueer woman, by the way, so I also, I go fluid with the fashion. So I feel you.
I was like, what
Yeah.
the? I'm saying like, what? Even a woman, dude. Like, what are you gonna put in these pockets? I'm sitting here. I'm like,
Yeah, it's a travesty. I'm telling you.
like, if a designer for women's clothing just put pockets in everything,
They just make bank. That would run away with it.
printing money, dog. Printing money. Money be up to here, dog. Printing money.
So true. Oh my gosh.
Okay, before we get out here, where can people go online to get more information about your books, what you're up to, what you're going to be up to?
Yeah. Let's see. My website, slhuang.com, SLHUANG.com. And you can find me on Twitter, SL_Huang. That's the place I'm most active, probably, is Twitter.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you can buy my books anywhere books are sold.
Yes. Go cop those. All right, thanks for talking with me.
Thank you.
Cool.
So that was my talk with S.L. Huang. She was super fun to talk to, and I totally have like a nerd crush on her now. If you go to the show notes at freshofthepodcast.com, there will be a link to where you can pre-order Critical Point, which will be due out April 28th via Tor. Now, next up is my talk with Cami Garcia and Jason Badower, and we talk about Joker Harley Criminal Sanity and its authenticity from a mental health aspect, along with how the project came to be and how it's influenced their other projects. And since Jason Badower is Australian, I had to give him shit about coffee because they take it seriously and coffee over here sucks to them. So let's get into the interview with Cami Garcia and Jason Badower. We have the team behind Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. Please introduce yourselves.
Cami Garcia.
Jason Badower.
How did you guys get together to do this title? How did it all kind of come out?
So there's actually more of us. Miko Sion is also one of our artists, and Mike Mayhew started on the series, so he did the first two. And then we have a consultant named Dr. Ed Kurtz, who is our forensic psychiatrist / profiler, who does consulting for us. So I came up with the idea. Edwin and I worked on it together. Like, he would help me with all of the technical stuff and coming up with like crime scenes. And there was no black label, so I didn't really know what I would do with it because it wasn't DCU. Yeah. But one of my editors at DC just kept encouraging me, like, just work on it and see what happens. And then weirdly, she was like, okay, there's something you could do with it. And I was like, well, I don't get it, because they had not announced Black Label. And so I was like, what is this like top secret thing? I thought they wanted me to write like a novel. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And so, because I'm a novelist originally. So I went in and I pitched to like Jim Lee and, Dan and Bob and Hank. The editor-in-chief was very intimidating, and the publishers. And they said, we have this other label that's going to be out of continuity and like these different kinds of stories. And so, like, originally what I was thinking about writing like a serial killer novel. But I was loving doing Teen Titans I was doing Raven for the YA line. And I was like, I'd rather do a graphic novel, because what I really wanted to do was like see it. Like, I can see it in my head, and I wanted to see it for real. And so, and also the Joker is like this, realistically, like the scariest serial killer, especially the sane version of him. So I was like, I'm just going to turn this, like, do my serial killer thriller about the Joker. And obviously, if you're going to hunt the smartest, serial killer, you need a forensic psychiatrist and a profiler to find them. So who better to hunt him than Harley?
The Black Label imprint, ended up being something that was, a bit more mature than the rest of the DC stuff. Was your idea that you began with, Was it less mature or more mature
Oh,
than
no,
what?
it was as mature as it is. It was, it's not. There's, the biggest thing about it obviously is it's graphic because there are bodies, there are crime scenes, so it's not. So, and I mean, there's language too. There's not appropriate for like 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Really,
And at one point, in another title, we saw Batman's dick. So
we're not going to see anyone's penis.
no one's dick. Okay, all right.
We're not going to see any penises. We're not going to see anyone's like. Even we have one crime scene where traditionally the body would have been naked, but he has a little Roman diaper on.
Okay, all right.
I just don't. I don't need to see anyone's like. I mean, I can't promise you might not see some like innards and entrails.
Innards
but you're
are
not gonna see any
fine, but
penis.
you don't need to get into this drama about genitalia or anything. No.
It's just not necessary. Like it really takes you out of the story.
Yeah.
Right. And even for one of the things which I love about Miko's design for Harley in this, that she is wearing great clothes, functional clothes. She rides around on a motorbike, so she has to wear stuff that's appropriate for that. And everything that is dressed her in, even I remember early on I drew her in high-heeled boots, and they're like, no boots, no heels, no flat heels. Like, she's a functional person.
Right.
She's a tough girl. She
Yeah.
can't run around in high heels.
Right. Everything has to work.
She wants to we wanted her to be really realistic, and also I wanted the focus to be on how, I mean, she's still beautiful, but how intelligent she is, not on like her cleavage.
Right.
Because I wanted it to be like the attraction is like she is sexy because she's smart and formidable, not because you're like looking at her body.
Yeah, that's something I see, with the Black Label stuff is that it might be a little bit more mature, but a lot of the art is more functional. Coming up with with what she was writing, how did, from a artistic standpoint, were you able to sort of bring her words to life? How did that kind of, what was the method of the process of doing that?
Well, it starts with Cammy's Bible, which is just phenomenal. And one of the things, it is so grounded. And one of the things I like, it's so realistic.
Well, that's because I have Ed, too.
Well, that's it. I mean, we have an internationally renowned forensic psychiatrist who's sat down, who's a DC fan also, who sat down, looked at the Joker and looked at Harley Quinn and said, well, and worked with Cammy to say, well, what would this relationship look like in a real world context, right? We've got some limitations where you were saying psychiatrists do not fall for their patients. So if that doesn't
forensics, like
forensics,
level,
right.
Like Ed said, there's no. I'm sure someone has somewhere, but he's like, there's no like cases that you can pull up, on Google about like a real forensic psychiatrist like being in like a mental facility in love with her patient. Like they know going in that like number one, a psychopath is not capable of love or empathy or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's like he works in like a real Arkham. And he's like, when I go in and I go into the prison and stuff and see these guys, like, they're psychopaths, like, I know it's reptilian. Like, he's like, I know they're going to lie to me. I know they're going to try to manipulate me.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no doubt. So I don't go in and, like, become disillusioned or, like, I'm leading myself down the wrong path. He's like, I know that leading myself down that path, you will end up dead.
Did that change anything in regards to your story, what you were writing about once you heard things like that from?
Well, I kind of knew that from my own research, but like every time, like if I would kind of go off on the wrong path, like we have a profile and I'd be like, oh, I wanted her to say this, or I want this crime scene, and Ed would say it doesn't, like it doesn't match up to the profile, like she wouldn't do that, or he wouldn't do that because they're a narcissist, or because they're so self-aware. So he would prevent, and I asked, like that was his job. I said, like, I do not want you to let me go on like kind of creative writer tangents where I come up with cool story points that are not accurate. So that was his job, was to be like, that sounds like an awesome idea, except it's totally unrealistic. And I would be like, damn, because it would seem very realistic. He's like, it definitely would happen from a killer. He's like, but not a killer with this profile. So his really had to rein me in.
And that's what's just so fascinating, that you see so many movies where they're like based on true events. Well, what if it's based on a true psychiatric theory, like profile, right?
Yeah.
And that's what grounds the entire book. Like I work with Dr. Kurtz and Cammy on everybody's body language because there are no forensic clues, right? The Joker is so good, he's not leaving fingerprints, blood, DNA, or anything. The only clues are psychological. And that's what Harley has to figure out. So in all the artwork, there are layers and layers of people's body language and things that he's done and doing that are clues for Harley, and she's the only one who can figure it out. And it is a fascinating dynamic to see this Harley being brilliant. She is brilliant, right? But still has her own issues.
Once you get farther in, like once you get around like 4 and 5 too, I think like the people who are real like kind of Criminal Minds, Mindhunter fans, like they're gonna go back to 1 and 2 because like I am a hardcore plotter and I plot like a screenwriter, and
they might see stuff that
there's
like,
Chekhov's gun, man. Like there are clues.
like there's clues in the first couple that they might not have seen that like, oh wait a minute, yo,
yeah.
there was something. Let me go back.
There's obvious ones where like they find something and they don't know what it is, but then there's hidden ones like like Jason's even put stuff like in the background. Part of what you get is Joker's backstory, and he even thought about like, well, what's in his bedroom? What's on the walls? What kind of curtains does he have? Like, what does this room look like? Like, so there are these little hints and clues, and also just things that like these like nuances that once you've read through and you like have more time or you're waiting for the next one, if you like go back to the beginning and like read through, you can find all these kind of like little things that are hidden.
Jason, for your work, how does this sort of differ in any way, like in regards to paying attention to body language?
Oh, that great question. So every person's body language I've run by Dr. Kurtz. So right from the flashbacks with Harley's mother, I sat down and spoke to him about her psychological profile and her history and what her body language would be like, what her brother would be like, what that dynamic and that relationship is. How yes.
What kind of clothes
Yep.
would she wear?
And it's just so great to have this support and team to lean back on that. I mean, I think the French call it mise en scène, where everything in this is planned, right? Yeah. Everything is thought about and a note for somebody to think about. And if you know and if you're resonant to it, you will hopefully pick that up if I've done my job.
Ed always says, he's like, I talk to you more than my fiance. And I talk to him more than my husband, because it's like every time I'm not sure about something, every line, like he goes over the first draft, and then before the letter prep, before the letterer gets the final dialogue and everything to put in, who by the way is Richard Starking, who did Killing Joke.
Okay.
He's amazing. He'll go over it first himself and make notes, and then we get on the phone and we go over every single line, and I'll be like, well, I think, and he's like, well, I just can't live with that one. I just don't think he would say that one word. Like, we talk about like tattoos on like Russian criminals, like everything.
But has this changed like the way that you think about body language in your art?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, when my ideal thing to draw are interesting-looking people talking about interesting things. And so when you have these characters, these performances that are so thought out, and again, are playing right through to the end of the book, from the start to the end, it's just so much fun. It is just, trying to create these performances, laying them out, having these people interact with each other. And again, when you have Miko, who's just an absolute master of drawing people and drawing beautiful people doing, interesting things,
like
and horror.
And I said that one of the things, so Miko was the first person like on the project besides like Ed and I when we were working together, and I was talking to him about like shows and movies and stuff we loved, and I said, I love the show Hannibal because they're the most grotesque crime scenes, but they're like from afar they're beautiful, and up close they're hideous.
Yeah.
And I knew when I saw his work, like he knows how to do that perfectly. Where like you first look at the page and you're like, God, this is such gorgeous artwork, and then you look closely and you're like, are those tendons? Like, that's really disgusting. Is that melted body fat? Like, so those are the kind of things that I feel like, if you don't have the right artist, like it just does not work, because the artist has to be just as interested in the content as the writer.
And I get so many emails and texts from Cammy being like, I'm sorry I have to send you this, and it'll be the inside of a gut lining. And it's like...
I was like, I'm sorry, I have to send some viscera. I don't like the viscera you have.
Look, Christy's like, I should really not be CC'd on this email right now.
Our editor, Christy's like, I would like to be out of this loop.
Yeah. Christy Quinn is our editor, and she's like the ringmaster in this circus and just does a spectacular job. And Annette Kwok with our colors, it is such a dream team. I really feel like, for me, it's like I didn't just get drafted into the NBA. I'm on the All-Star game. Like, is my first match.
One of the all-stars already.
Faking it till I make it.
All right, before we get out of here, where can people go online to get more information about, the book and what you both are doing?
Well, DC has Colonel Sanity up. It has, you can like click on it and it tells you all the descriptions and stuff. And then pretty much everywhere, I'm just my name, Cami Garcia, KamiGarcia. I'm that on like my website, my Twitter, and my Instagram. And I have on my website like all the links and stuff like that. And go to your local comic shop. Like they are aware and they know like what the variants are and what's coming. This is bi-monthly.
Yeah.
So there's.
And I love your necklace.
Oh, thank you. I'm a jewelry girl. I'm a plain black but jeweled girl.
Yeah.
And for me, at Jason Badower, so Badower, and it's a unique name. You just Google that and you'll find all my stuff. So.
And being Australian, I know you don't like the coffee that's here in the States.
You have hit the nail on the head, my friend. You guys see coffee as a base for condiments. It's like, do you want to frappa whipper? Can you just make it good? Like, how about that?
I always got to ask Australians about coffee because you guys are mental about coffee.
Just to give you guys an idea, I think like Starbucks opened like 90-something Starbucks in Australia, and they closed 86 of them because we wouldn't drink.
Ordering one of those drinks this morning for me.
It's like against my religion. The things I do to be functional.
I gave him there were 20 additions to my coffee, and I was like, "Do you mind ordering this?" And now I'm thinking he's probably like, "This is not for me."
It's gut-wrenching, yeah.
It's like vanilla venti with 5 pumps of vanilla. I'm like, okay, so that's what your kid's having. What are you having? Like,
this is how I make the magic happen.
All right.
That's the special sauce.
All right, it's been great talking with you both. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks. Hey, yo, thank you for listening to this episode of Fresh is the Word, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Intro theme music by Foulmouth, Shimmy Bango, and Knox Money. Fresh is the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/FreshIsTheWord. Follow Fresh is the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh is the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh is the Word. For more information about Fresh is the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.